Okay, here we go. There we go. Alright, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, what's going on, guys? As I said, about 10 minutes late, but, you know, as I still said, I'm still here. So let me share this out. I do hope people show up because this is like a day late. Hey, there we go. Adam's here. What's good, Adam? How you doing, man? Actually, kind of a light week for comics too. I only ended up getting like 3 books. I mean, there's like a lot of cool stuff that came out. Or I guess like not a lot of cool stuff. Cool stuff did come out, and I really enjoyed the stuff that did come out. It's just like, I don't know. There were like 5 books that I enjoyed reading this week, and I bought 3 of them. So I can say that much. What books did you pick up this week, Adam? How's my week been? Pretty good. Just tired. Do you think your stream is safe? I will find him. I think I need a more phallic shaped like thing to scream from when doing that. Cause yeah, no, that Man of Steel is a very Freudian movie. People who love those films way more than I do often say it's intentional. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but yeah, my week's been pretty good. Working on a lot of cosplay stuff. Still trying to, like, you know, well, I actually filled out a bunch of job applications. Just now comes the fun part. The waiting. It's real fun. In the meantime, though, I've been reading a lot more comics. I've been working on my own comic, and that's been proving pretty fruitful so far. But mostly just a lot of reading. I've had that whole thing where, God, I really wish I was focused enough to crank out more comic book reviews, just because, I don't know, that's like a thing I like doing. I like editing videos. I like talking about comic books. I like taking those two things and just putting them together. But what I often do is I will get into a groove of reading a comic book with the intent of reviewing it. And then I just get like so involved in reading it that I wind up just continuing with the series, and then I'm 40 issues deep, like far past the point of whatever the hell I was trying to review in the first place, and then I'm just like, oh, so I'm just not gonna review this book, am I? I'm just gonna sit here and read this comic and like not talk about the actual story, which I intended to review. And then I like also start reading books that are like that comic that I'm enjoying, and then I start reading books that are like thematically and philosophically like opposed to it, and then I just kind of run into a cycle of just reading comics as opposed to talking about the comics that I'm reading. For anyone who's wondering, that's the real reason why you don't see a lot of videos from me at any given point in time. I just get so ADD brained about reading all these comics that I enjoy. I just don't talk about them. So, Omega. How's the mask? Is it still too tight? Actually, no. I was able to figure out how to loosen the. He's talking about the Robin mask. I was able to figure out how to loosen the straps in the back, the rubber straps. So it fits on my face. Still pretty snug, but I just need to get a little piece of foam and just like pop it right here so it's not caving my sinuses back. But yeah, for the most part, it's done. Actually, not even for the most part. It's actually just done now. The last big part that I had to work on was the tunic, which isn't really a tunic. It's more like a shirt. I went with a very modern post Teen Titans animated series Robin costume. So that's buried under a bunch of stuff. I don't feel like getting it right now. I'll leave that and wait till I build up more stamina. What's the longest comic run you've been enjoying? Like right now or in general? Because in general, I still think that honor goes to Ultimate Spider-Man. Or not honor. I'm not fucking honorable. But I think that I think for me that goes to Ultimate Spider-Man. Actually, no. Invincible might be my favorite. Although Invincible has like dips and dives here and there where I just kind of get bored. Right now? I am really, really enjoying the City of Tomorrow era Superman stuff. I made everything else fall, so that's fine. But I'm really enjoying this material. I actually have some of the other trade paperbacks that make up this run because I highly doubt DC's going to publish volumes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and everything else that kind of leads up to Infinite Crisis when all of this material kind of gets undone. Well, actually, not Infinite Crisis, because I think Kurt Busiek's run happens before this, and this, for all intents and purposes, is like the last hurrah of the Triangle era. Yeah, because after this, Action Comics and the main Superman book don't really like they used to in the 90s and the 2000s. But I'm really enjoying this. I had this thing that I kind of wanted to get into on Twitter, but I just kind of didn't because it's Twitter. I just didn't feel like going on that whole... but that's a whole thing. But I saw someone post a video clip from Superman Batman Public Enemies. And that's a really fun film. It's a classic DC animated universe film back when those movies were, I guess, like consistently good. Because now they're pretty hit or miss, or they've been hit or miss for a long time, honestly. But yeah, no, I was just like watching that clip of Superman and Captain Marvel going at it, while also Batman and Hawkman were going at it. And it just kind of reminded me of DC in the early 2000s, along with going back and rereading some of this. DC in the early 2000s, there's just a fun factor that just isn't really present anymore. Like you feel me? Like, I don't know. And I don't know when the change happened. And this is this is pre New 52 as well, because you definitely notice when some more cinematic sensibilities start seeping into the stories, and we have to take this universe and these characters more seriously now because we're serious, blah blah blah. And I don't know, just there's a reverent irreverence for just that world and those characters, and I don't know, man, it's just the DC universe just used to be way more fun than it is now. Same with the Marvel universe. The Marvel universe used to be way more fun in the early 2000s, I think. Although the thing that you can kind of like point to directly and say, well, this is why, is the Ultimate Universe. The Ultimate Universe completely blew the doors off of everyone's mind and, I guess, altered people's preconceived notions of what comics can be. Especially people who are working in Marvel Comics. So you definitely see a shift in the way in which stories are told. There is a way more cinematic approach to comic book storytelling post Ultimates in the Marvel Universe. Civil War onward is all very cinematic. And Marvel still feels very cinematic in their storytelling philosophy. But I don't know, man. Just like as far as DC Comics is concerned, I think it's two things. There's a push to be cinematic, especially when Jeff Johns comes on board, does Action Comics and Infinite Crisis, and the post Infinite Crisis world of the DC universe is very cinematic. You look at 52 onwards, and that's when the comics stop feeling like comic books. They start feeling like movie pitches. But it's a combination of that and I want to say the back-to-back. I consider them hits. Infinite Crisis and Final Crisis being these meta commentary juggernauts that are telling stories about the DC universe and about what these characters mean, and there's like a self-seriousness wrapped up in the storytelling itself. And I don't know, I just kind of feel like when the DC universe just wasn't focused on that kind of thing, it's just more fun. That's not to say that there isn't really fun material coming out now, and that's not to say that there isn't really good material coming out right now. In fact, I think DC Comics is at like they're riding a high right now in terms of quality content. Because I can't really think of much that I'm not enjoying. But yeah, no, it was just one of those weird things where I went back to reading some of this material, which I scoffed at the time because I was one of those kids who was like, oh, Superman. My dad likes Superman. I'm not gonna read that. But no, I'm like reading this, and this is like all shit that is like up my alley. I love this. This is so much fun. And yeah, man, it's just kind of it's bizarre to go back and like read some of this stuff. But I'm really enjoying a lot of early 2000s Superman right now. As well as the early 2000s World's Finest series. That book's also a lot of fun. Oh, what's up, Tevia? Omega says, early 2000s Superman is good stuff. Especially mostly in art. Love when they made Metropolis look futuristic with the flying cars and stuff. Yeah, no, I really like that. It's kind of that thing where Gotham City just looks like Baltimore circa 1985 forever, whereas Metropolis looks like Fritz Lang's Metropolis. I think that's it's kind of a no-brainer. Uh, it's it's so weird. Like you'd think that's just what Metropolis would look like all the time, but it's really not the case. It's a fairly modern notion, you know. The first place that I honestly think that design philosophy for contrasting Metropolis and Gotham City, I think the first place that's done is The World's Finest book, where Steve Rude did the art. I believe Steve Rude did the art for that. I'm gonna look that up. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, that was in 1992. Interesting. But yeah, Steve Rude is like the first person to really make Metropolis look like not just New York City. Meanwhile, he's also one of the first people to have Gotham City look like not just New York City. Yeah, dude, it's so funny. It's also weird. I've seen a lot of people weirdly complain about the Donner films depicting Metropolis as this like it's just a boring, drab city, and I'm like, well, yeah. Have you read a lot of the Silver and Bronze Age Superman comics? Not Gotham. Metropolis isn't a city of tomorrow wonderland, at least in design, up until the post-crisis era, and it was really cemented with the animated series. So yeah, again, just complete no-brainers there, but just, you know, really heightened looking cities in the DC universe is not really a thing until like the animated series or the DC animated universe. Yeah, bizarre. Omega says, didn't personally like the Public Enemy's adaptation. They cut way too many good Superman moments, and it mostly became Batman saving Superman. Yeah, but that's also just that's almost everything DC animated related. Because I think a lot of the people working in the animation department at DC, at the very least, a lot of the people who used to be working in the animation department at DC, they had a real, I don't know, I think it was a combination of them being really big Batman fans, but also like not really. I mean, I don't think they understood that you don't have to put down one character to prop up another. They did that a lot, especially with Batman. It's part of the reason why I'm just not a big DC animated guy. And I know that's like absolute heresy. But my biggest problem with a lot of the DC animated material, and why I can just never really get on board when people always say, well, the movies should just do the animated stuff, because the animated stuff always gets it right. And I'm like, the animated movies and TV shows often, in their attempts to make Batman seem like not superfluous, they like make everyone else in the Justice League and the DC universe, for that matter, just like painfully incompetent. Well, I guess trying to make Batman like seem like I'm the guy with the plan and I know how things work. Blah, 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 blah. Like, the most egregious example, and this is when I really just noticed it, was Justice League Doom. You know, the adaptation of not Mark Miller, Mark Waid's, and I think Howard Porter did the art for that, or maybe that might have been Duncan Rolu. I don't remember, but anyway, sorry, but just there's a bit in that movie where Vandal Savage, because they altered the villain in that story to be Vandal Savage instead of Ra's al Ghul, which I don't know why they made that change, but there's just a lot of changes in that movie that I just don't understand. But they had a whole thing where Vandal Savage was going to launch like a magnetic missile to the sun, and the sun's rays are going to like be attracted to the earth and cull like 75% of the population or something, whatever. And there's a there's a moment where Superman just says, well, the missile's already been launched. I can move the earth out of the way and maybe that will save everyone. And Batman just like face palms, just like I'm sure everyone else in the audience face palmed, because like what that is like that is the dumbest thing I think anyone can say in that situation. Granted, I know the DC universe used to be like a heightened wonderland where physics didn't really matter, but that's just one of those situations where they're clearly putting one character down to put up another character. In this case, that second character is Batman. But just like, I don't know, Superman's not like a super genius, but he is a formidable intellect. You think he wouldn't say something painfully, like, egregiously retarded, but like, we gotta make Batman look cool. You know, just like when Flash gets a bomb bolted through his wrist, this guy's had these powers for God knows how many years, and he didn't immediately think, oh, what if I just vibrate my wrist through an iceberg in a remote area? Only Batman could think of that, not the Flash, who actually has these superpowers and is an actual genius. Like, he is an astral physicist, you know, because Barry Allen's whole thing is studying the astral properties of the Speed Force, on top of just being like, I think he has a PhD in biology. Like, Barry Allen's not dumb. But we gotta make the Justice League seem super dumb and incompetent, because Batman's and that's just all across the DC animated movies and TV shows. So I don't know. I could just never really get on board with the whole make it like the animated stuff. I'm like, well, no, don't make it like the animated stuff, please. Just I like my DC heroes to be competent at their job in saving the world. That's just me, though. That's just me. Supreme Omega says, for me, after reading through DC's post-crisis era of 1986 to 2003, makes me resent Didio and Johns more. Remember when Tim, Bart, Connor Hawk, and Kyle had their own solos? Thoughts? So I actually didn't read a bunch of those. I read... Well, no, I take that back. I read some of the Tim Drake Robin books. Actually, somewhat recently, too. As a kid, I don't think I did, though. I don't think I read it as a kid. I didn't read Superboy as a kid because I had a whole weird bias against the Super Family. I did read some of the Connor Hawk Green Arrow book because Green Arrow was one of those weird characters that I enjoyed. I don't know why I said it like that. I mean, like, I legitimately like Green Arrow as a character, but it's one of those things where I kind of cringe at myself for why I liked Green Arrow as a kid. A lot of it just came down to Green Arrow is not popular, so I have to like the thing that's not popular, because I've been a contrarian most of my life, and I'm a massive dork because of it. Uh, but yeah, I like the Connor Hawke Green Arrow book. Kyle had his, well, I mean, Kyle had a solo, but Kyle's was also he's like the Green Lantern at the time, so it makes sense why he had a book. But yeah, Jeff Johns and Dan DiDio were, I commend what they were trying to do. They were trying to bring the DC universe back to, they're trying to make the DC universe feel classic again. But I do think they wound up causing irrevocable damage to some characters in that attempt. Namely, the Young Justice crew and that whole generation got majorly screwed, I think. And then the New 52 comes along and just, I don't know how you salvage that. That whole generation is just lost. I don't know how you salvage them at all. Hey, Tevya. Just got back from a great interview with Dan Jurgens. Oh, you interviewed Dan Jurgens? Sweet. This for your channel? Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I miss early 2000s with Peter Parker and Mary Jane. It breaks my heart that we lost Peter and MJ for a lot of bad stories. Yeah, well, that's the thing for me. Again, this is just me being a little contrarian, I guess, but I don't inherently mind Peter and MJ not being together. The problem with the post One More Day era for me has been you replace the status quo with a status quo that I A, don't like, and B, don't really see anything fruitful being done with this new status quo. I don't. If you're gonna break up Peter and MJ, which is a dynamic, classic comic book couple, if you're going to undo that marriage and undo that relationship, well, then at least replace it with something cool and interesting. That was the problem. They didn't replace it with anything cool and interesting. They didn't do anything really groundbreaking with the status quo of Peter Parker essentially going back to zero after living as a married man for decades at that point. Which I think, again, I think you could do something interesting with that idea. I think Into the Spider-Verse definitely proved that you could do something interesting with that idea. But just the comics didn't. The comics just kind of felt like they were trying to retread the 70s, and it just didn't work. Tevye's question, I was wondering how you would feel about the Authority fighting Superman in a movie. I think it can work, because I think anything can work. So, okay. We didn't really talk about this last week with the whole DC James Gunn movie slate, but James Gunn said something very interesting last week, or I guess a week and a half ago, where he said that Superman Legacy, which is the official title for the Superman movie that's coming out in the next 2 years. Let me turn my phone off. Not off, just let me silence this, because this is annoying. So, the weird thing with Superman Legacy is that James Gunn said that it's going to lead directly into the Authority movie that they're working on, and we have no context for what Superman Legacy is. We just know that it's going to feel like All-Star Superman. Sure, that can mean any number of things, but it's just weird having the Authority in the DC universe at all. Like, the Authority is okay. The Authority is a parody of the Justice League, right? In the Wildstorm universe, that's where they come from, and the whole thing about, it's superheroes in a post War on Terror era are just going to, what if they just wanted to fix the world and they became the Justice League? It's kind of what the Authority comic is. Meanwhile, when you get to the Superman book, or I guess one of the Superman books, in this case it's Action Comics issue 775, Joe Kelly and Lee Bermejo and there's like two other artists I think worked on that book. But in any case, Action Comics 775, the creative team invents this new superhero team, or I guess anti-hero team, called the Elite. The Elite is a satire, or I guess parody of the Authority, like a direct parody of the Authority. Like, okay, and pretty crappy parody if I'm gonna just throw my hat in the ring there. I really don't like Action Comics 775. I think that's a really crappy story. It's basically just, hey, let's have Superman moralize to these really hollow, like, paper-thin straw man arguments for why we need to kill super villains. Just like, that book's so dumb. Like, you could have done something, and I like Joe Kelly's run on Action Comics for the most part, but that was like it's like the one thing I don't like in that run. I don't like Superman versus the Elite. I think that whole story is terrible. Let's take the fucking blueprint for modern mythology, being Superman, and throw a bunch of like crappy straw men who are parodies of 90s edgelord archetypes at what I'm supposed to like this story? Fuck off. But anyways, so now that Jim Lee sold Wildstorm to DC Comics, now that the Authority exists in the DC universe, you basically just have like two authorities, because you have the Elite and you have the Authority. But I guess DC just kind of is gonna do away with the Elite now that they have like the actual thing that they were making fun of. It's just weird, I just think it's weird. I know they're going to adapt that really shitty comic at some point in time. I know they're going to. And they're probably going to replace Jenny Sparks with Manchester Black. That whole thing, yeah. Oh, man. Dude, I have, like, no positive vibes about the Authority movie at all. I'm sorry, I just don't. I want to, but, like, oof. Not if it's gonna be, like, a big DC Universe thing. But Omega says, early 2000s was great because there was a desire to show off something cool and interesting, and for your inner kid to enjoy, and to have social commentaries for grown-ups. Well, yeah, I think you can do both. I think you can definitely have both. It's just, I feel like we're so uppity with it now, Now, some of that's changing, you know. I definitely think there are exceptions to that. Like, I'm reading the Flash right now, 1 Minute War by Jeremy Adams. This is just straight up DC Comics. This feels like an early 2000s DC Comics story. Ugh. Ow. You ever sneeze and it like hurts? That's what it's like to have allergies. But yeah, no, like this comic is really fun. Sorry. But yeah, no, it's just the whole universe just feels different now. It's bizarre. Debbie says, question. Speaking of DC Comics, that reminds me. I am just wondering, how did you feel about DC 5G having John Kent and Damian Wayne killing each other? Is that what was going to happen? Because that sounds terrible. Yeah, no, that sounds awful. I'm glad that didn't happen. And Debbie says, question. Speaking of DC animation, I'm just wondering, how do you feel about Justice League crossing over with Ruby? I don't care. I don't care. Ruby was not a thing that I was ever really interested in, so I'm probably just not going to watch that movie. I hope it's good, though, for people who like Ruby and DC together. Supreme Omega says, on DC Rebirth, if you want to be real cynical, I try not to be, but this kind of comes out of me sometimes. It was still the New 52, but with a different coat of paint. Something about the DCU was lost forever with Flashpoint, and I feel like we're not going to get it back. Yeah, I feel that way too. But even then, I think that feeling that you talk about, you know, with the DC universe just not feeling the same post Flashpoint, I think that like even kind of stretches beyond the realm of Flashpoint. Why am I so sneezy? Oh, right, I just came back from doing laundry. I got fucking lint trapped in my nose. God damn it. Give me 1 second. I have to be an egregious nerd for a second. It's just actively stereotypical. Only thing I'm missing is the glasses. Whew, if you don't have allergies, I hate you. But also count your blessings. But I also hate you. Where was I though? Oh right. So Supreme Omega says that you know, the DC universe just kind of felt different after Flashpoint. Yeah. So here's the thing. Or I guess here's my thing. I really feel like that essence of fun that I think a lot of people talk about being lost in the DC universe. Like I was saying earlier in the stream, I think there's a shift in the way in which DC comic stories are told. There's like a self-seriousness to them, where they just kind of like, they go from being like really fun, like, you know, kids playing with action figures, but like in the best way possible, to being very like introspective and feeling the need to comment on the medium and the DC universe and these characters and what they mean. And now we're just kind of, I guess, seeing that, but like in its worst form. Or at the very least, I think we were seeing that in its worst form for a long time. I definitely think there were certain editors at DC and certain writers and artists at DC who just kind of started distancing themselves from telling shallow greatest hit stories from the Infinite Crisis and Final Crisis era. I really think I think we're out of that now. I think we're, again, I think we're more in the we're going back to the fun times. Omega says, oddly enough, but the New 52 movies were more respectful to Superman than the entirety of the DC animated universe. He saves Raven from suicide while being poisoned by kryptonite. What a badass. Oh, absolutely. That's the weird thing about the DC animated movie universe. Like, compared to the original DC line of movies, nowhere near as good in terms of quality. But in terms of their treatment of characters who aren't Batman, oh, happy days, like, oh, look, it's a Superman movie where Superman isn't a complete dumbass. Nice. Or a Justice League movie where Superman isn't made to be a complete dumbass just to make Batman look cool. Nice. Oh, look, the Flash is doing something, and he's actually, like, competent. He isn't just, like, a really hollow archetype of, well, he's the kid of the team, so he has to be immature and stupid. Like, the Flash is actually the Flash. Cool. I did feel bad for Green Lantern fans, though. Green Lantern fans did have it pretty bad throughout that New 52 animated era, as did Batman fans. But I guess there's a trade-off, because in the pre-New 52 animated era, Green Lantern fans and Batman fans were eating pretty good. Or at the very least, I'll say I think Green Lantern fans were eating good. Batman fans ate pretty good when it came to the Justice League movies and the Batman Superman movies, but I'm trying to think. Batman didn't really have a lot of... Yeah, DC wasn't really banking super hard on all the Batman stuff until after the New 52 Flashpoint switch happened, right? Because I'm trying to think. There's Under the Red Hood, which comes out after Superman Doomsday. And Superman Doomsday is just not good. I know some people like it. No, I don't like that movie at all. Under the Red Hood is really good, and it's so good that it's the one thing that people point to when they say that DC animation is like fire, and I'm like, all right, well, that's one movie out of like how many do they have? But yeah, Under the Red Hood is really good, and then there's Gotham Knights, which ties into the Nolan films, and it's like technically like a in-betweequel of Batman Begins and Dark Knight, which is just weird because that means that Deadshot and Killer Croc exist in the Nolan universe, which is badass, but also like, again, just weird to wrap my brain around. But yeah, Gotham Knights, Under the Red Hood. What other Batman movies are there in the DC animated original movie line? I think that's it. Like, I really think that might be it. All right. Yeah, there's not. Yeah, I mean, there's Batman and Superman movies, but like, not a lot of Batman movies. Oh, there's Year One. And Year One was just not good. Because Batman Year One is just that was a comic that was meant to be read, and unfortunately, not everything is meant to be transitioned into another medium. In fact, hold on a second. I'm gonna do this real quick. I'm gonna do like I'm just gonna run through like all the DC animated movies and like show you guys which ones I like, which ones I think are Okay. Let me change the thing real quick. There we go. Alright. So, okay, here we go. So here's a list of all the DC animated movies that have come out from Superman Doomsday up to Legion of Superheroes. How many of let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I count this as one movie. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 5, 6, 37, 8, 39, 40, 41, 42. Count that as one movie as well. 43, 44, 45, 46, 47. And really 46, because I think Death and Reign of Superman I count as one movie as well. Alright, so let's see. So out of these 46 films, I'm not a fan of this one. I am a fan of this one. I like this one. I think the comic's better, but again, it's just, working with what you got and like the little time constraints that you have. There's just no way you're gonna fit that whole New Frontier comic into like that one 90-minute movie. That's just not possible. And I think they did a really good job with, what they had. Also helped that Darwin Cook helped write it. But yeah, this one's really good. I enjoy this one. I know that some people aren't big fans of Gotham Knight, but I enjoyed it. Wonder Woman, nope, did not like that movie at all. It has really good fight scenes in it. Great fight scenes. But nope, that movie is not a fan. Green Lantern First Flight, really good. I like this movie a lot. I like this like the more I watch it, and I'm not a big Green Lantern guy, but yeah, this is just really good. This is one of those cases where I think the animated movie is everything that the live action movie should have been. Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. I enjoy it. I think the comic is better, but I do enjoy it still. Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. Nope, not a fan. The comic is way better, and nope, no. To be fair, I love JLA Earth 2. That's a Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly collaboration. I have not read Crisis on Earth 3. This might be like an old Silver Age DC comic, and the animated movie is probably pulling more heavily from this than this. But still just not a fan. Batman Under the Red Hood, fantastic. Like, just wow. Here's how you make a movie. Here's how you showcase everything that animation can do. There is that weird bit in the bathroom though, where Batman is fighting Jason, and there's no doors in that bathroom at all. I could read too deep into that and say, well, this is why everyone in Gotham City is insane, because the architecture and the shitty doesn't make any sense and it drives everyone crazy. But really, that's just like that was an oversight in animation. I didn't mind it though. That's one of those things that like I didn't notice until years after that movie came out, and then it's just funny how I just can't not notice it after watching it. But yeah, I love this film a lot. Way better than the comic too. That's one of the rare cases where the movie's better than the comic. To be fair though, this is Judd Winick basically giving himself a do-over. You know, so he wrote Under the Hood, which was just whew, that is a comic book that I did not enjoy as a kid, and I've been tempted to go back and reread, but I just never psyched myself up enough to do it. Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. This is another one where I enjoy it, but it's I don't think it's good. I enjoy it, but I don't think it's good. And that was like my last viewing of it. Like after watching Legion of Superheroes, and we'll talk about that. But like after watching Legion of Superheroes, I fell in love with that depiction of Supergirl. I fell in love with that movie and everything they did with Kara as a character. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to this movie and view it positively. All-Star Superman. This is a fun movie. I really enjoy it. I do wish it got the Dark Knight Returns treatment, where it was broken up into two films. I think that's how you do that story justice. But I think, you know, I don't think DC thought that it would have been like lucrative to break that story up into two films. So I get it. It's sad, but I get it. But for what we got, I think they did a pretty good job with that movie. And the animation is like breathtaking in that film. It's gorgeous. There is a very stark animation decline starting with this movie. Because all of these films, regardless of how I feel about some of them, they all look immaculate. So there's a major budget cut somewhere along this line. But yeah, All-Star Superman's beautiful. Green Lantern, Emerald Knights, I also really enjoyed. I thought that was a really fun movie. Again, it was one of those things where I'm not a big Green Lantern guy, but this was a really good, you know, kiddie pool immersion into the Green Lantern mythos. And it made me want to read Green Lantern comics until I started checking out some Green Lantern comics, and I got confused and frustrated, and so I just stopped. Then there's Batman Year One. Just what a mistake. Jesus Christ. Nope. Some things just are not meant to be adapted. That goes for a lot of Frank Miller things. I think Frank Miller's one of those guys where, especially with his Batman material, it's just so operatic, and it's so... It works on the page in a way it does not work in motion. I don't know. I don't think the way in which Frank Miller writes words is designed for people to, like, wrap their tongues around and actually speak. There's a very, like, purple prose kind of quality to a lot of his material that just doesn't translate to another medium, I feel. Justice League Doom, we were talking about that. Nope, don't like this one. Superman vs. the Elite, also don't like this one. But that's not the movie's fault. I just don't like the comic that it's based on either, so that's just that. Dark Knight Returns, this movie is good. And I think this is... I get why people who like Dark Knight Returns like this two-parter. It does have the thing, though, where I think some of the ambiguity that you can read into that book is just lost by default of it being in motion. Like, there are just certain things in the book where I have a read on this that I think Batman does kind of cross the no killing line, and that's like that's like him opening the door to being something more than just a man, where he kind of like ascends this like mythic realm, and some of that is like the Grant Morrison the Grant Morrison interpretation of this book, poisoning my interpretation of this book, I guess. But yeah, no, there are just parts of this comic where I'm like, well, I felt like that was ambiguous. Namely, like the part where Batman kills that one girl in the tenement who's holding that little kid hostage. Batman straight up wastes her, I think. Because there's a whole bit where Gordon is in a convenience store, and one of the mutant teenagers is trying to shoot the clerk, and Gordon says, "I think of Sarah, and the rest is easy." And the scene immediately after that is that whole scene where Bruce is put in a situation that's very similar, but like more heightened because he's Batman. I feel like Frank Miller's doing something with that there. There's also the whole bit where Batman snaps the Joker's neck, and in the movie they make it very clear that the Joker is not dead. Bruce actually didn't kill him because Batman doesn't kill. But in the book, I always read that scene as Bruce coping. Like Bruce is just huffing insane amounts of copium, just trying to rationalize to himself, I snapped the Joker's neck, but I didn't snap the Joker's neck. I didn't kill him. He's not dead. He has to put, more pounds of pressure. And it's also just, I feel like that whole scene's a hallucination. Like that whole exchange between him and Joker in the Tunnel of Love after Bruce, he's old as dirt. He is tired. Joker just like stabbed this man like he's Dante and Devil May Cry, hit my man with like a trillion stabs. Like Bruce is losing blood. He's tired. He's like that's a hallucination. Batman straight up murdered the Joker in the Tunnel of Love. Or the very least, again, that's just my interpretation of that scene. But again, I just think you lose a lot of that ambiguity just by nature of this being a movie, and not a book that you like read. But let's see. After that is Superman Unbound. Nope, not good. Especially compared to like Superman Brainiac, which is a pretty decent Superman comic by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Flashpoint Paradox. I actually like this movie. I think it's a pretty good movie. I still hate Flashpoint as a comic book, and I hate what it did to the DC universe, but the movie's still pretty good, I feel. Justice League War, terrible. But the comic is also terrible. The only good adaptation of Justice League Origin, I think, is Zack Snyder's Justice League, but that's just me. Then there's Son of Batman, also terrible. Like, how do you... Okay. And this is the whole thing with just, like, the DC animated movie universe, like, Batman. They are riffing off of Morrison and Scott Snyder heavily. And those are two runs that are respectively not boring. Like, at the very least, like, whether you like Morrison or Snyder's runs, or if you don't like them, you know, or you don't like one of them, the one thing you can say is that they're not boring. How the hell did Son of Batman manage to make Batman and Son boring? Like, just, it's like one of the greatest Batman comics of all time, in my opinion. I know some people who don't like it and don't like Morrison's run overall, but they still think it's a fascinating take on the Batman mythology. But this just makes everything dude, what the hell? Major oof. Batman Assault on Arkham, I thought this was a fun movie, you know. It's gonna be weird, you know. I wonder if I wonder if Assault on Arkham is gonna call back to this movie at all. I highly doubt it, but still be cool. Throne of Atlantis, terrible, terrible. And the Throne of Atlantis comic was actually pretty good, I thought. Batman versus Robin, nope. And all these comics I thought were pretty good. You know, well, I'm not a big fan of Court of the Owls, but you know, Batman and Robin Born to Kill and Faces of Death. Well, not Faces of Death. Wait, what? Faces of Death. Wait, what? I'm confused. I didn't know there are elements of Detective Comics 27 in there. Interesting. But I had... Alright, but anyways, Batman and Robin Born to Kill, that's a Peter Tomasi book, I think. No, wait, Born to Kill, this is... What? Wait, where's Born to Kill? So I thought that was like a New 52 book. I thought that was the Tomasi book, where they had the whole thing where Robin murders, Robin just murders, I think his name's Ghost, by like shoving his fingers into his forehead, and Damien has that bit where he says, "Forgive me, Father, I've sinned." I thought that was a pretty good story, but yeah, Batman versus Robin. Let's combine those two stories together. Nope, didn't work. Justice League Gods and Monsters. I thought this was pretty good. I did like this. I wish they did more with this universe. I mean, it's cool on its own, but I just wish they did more with it. Bad Blood, terrible. Justice League versus Teen Titans. It's alright. I didn't hate it. There are parts of it that I enjoyed. Batman the Killing Joke. Everything I said about Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. This in spades. Justice League Dark. I had fun with this. You know, it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It does have the thing where John Constantine is basically just... Do you want to see Doctor Strange? But he's darker and grittier. So some of that's kind of cringe, but yeah, it's still fine. Judas Contract. Nope, not. What was the point? What's the point? Why are you going to adapt the Judas Contract but like shove Damian Wayne in there? Like that whole story is about Dick Grayson growing up and the rest of the Teen Titans growing up, and Tara being the allegory for the unfortunate friend who falls by the wayside and, you know, falls into the trappings of false maturity. And she's coerced by an older man who's like taking advantage of her. Like that's the whole point of the story. So just Look, if you're not gonna do Judas Contract, why do Judas Contract? I feel that's just yeah. Way to butcher one of the greatest comic books ever written and drawn. Batman and Harley Quinn, whew, it's egregious. Gotham by Gaslight, I thought was pretty fun. A little different from the comic. I heard that the movie actually pulls from a second volume of Gotham by Gaslight, which I didn't know that there was a sequel to the original Gotham by Gaslight, but still interesting. Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay. I actually really enjoyed this. I thought this was a really fun movie. And up until recently with James Gunn, this was, for the longest time, the best Suicide Squad movie ever made. Death and Reign of the Superman. I like this movie. I like this movie a lot. You know, I've heard a lot of Superman fans complain about the DC animated movie universe version of Death and Reign of the Superman, but I liked it. Then again, I'm also not the biggest fan of Death of Superman, like the comic. Might be heresy, but I thought this was a really good version of that story with all the fat just cut off. You know, I enjoyed it. Justice League versus the Fatal Five. I actually did not watch this one. Although I heard it was a pretty good finale or cap off to the DC animated universe, like the original DC animated universe. Batman Hush, I enjoyed more than the comic, and that's a hot take. I know that's heresy, but I like Batman Hush more than the comic. That comic is just not good. Wonder Woman Bloodlines, I actually never finished. I watched the first, 10 minutes of it, and I just kind of turned it off. I don't even know what it's about. Here's the thing. I really enjoy the first Patty Jenkins Wonder Woman movie. I think it's a really fine film. I really like it as an adaptation of Wonder Woman comics and an adaptation of that character. But when they did the opening of this movie, and it's literally just the opening of the live action Wonder Woman movie, I was disgusted and I turned it off. I'm sorry. So I never watched it. Then the Superman Red Sun, terrible. I love the Red Sun comic. I read that years after it came out, though, because I don't know. I always just kind of assumed it was going to be like this jingoistic, lacking in nuance. Well, this is why communism bad, and this is why capitalism good, and this is why America is peachy keen. But the book's not that. The book is actually very nuanced and you know, I don't know. I really just should have had more faith in Mark Miller, because Mark Miller's an amazing writer. So I learned my lesson. Just have faith in Mark Miller as a writer. And the book was fantastic. But the Red Sun movie is everything that I feared the comic was going to be, and holy crap, just what a dog shit show that was. And I was surprised that was written by J.M. DeMatteis, and I generally like J.M. DeMatteis a lot. I don't know, man. In the Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, way to just end this whole crappy ass universe. Thank God it's over. My girlfriend enjoyed it though, so you know, yeah, it was fun. Then there's Superman Man of Tomorrow. I enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's like the best Superman movie ever made that a lot of Superman fans like to claim it as. Mainly just because you get to the end of the movie, and there's that really just kind of cringy speech that Superman gives about accepting yourself and accepting your neighbors and blah, blah, blah. I don't like a preachy Superman. You know, I don't like a Superman that, like, you know, gets on a podium and makes, like, a Captain America speech. I don't like, that's not, I don't like that. So the movie has me up until that point, and then I just kind of cringe, and I'm like, ugh, alright, you've gone from a 9 out of 10 to a 7 out of 10 now. Nope. But still good, though. Still really good. Batman Solo the Dragon. I enjoy this movie a lot. It's really cool. I like when DC does stuff like this. Just, hey, do you want to see a funky DC movie set in the 70s? Alright, bet, I'll take it. It was also fun to see Silver St. Cloud in that movie. That was fun. This does have the thing that Assault on Arkham has, where I think Batman's name is in the title because DC just wants to sell it, but it's not actually about Batman. Batman's kind of like a background character in that movie. Just like he's a background character in this movie, he almost doesn't have to be there. But you gotta sell the books, or not the book, you gotta sell the movie somehow, so shove Batman in it. Hopefully that works. Justice Society World War II. I love this movie. I thought this was great. This is a fantastic Flash movie, a fantastic Justice Society movie. I enjoyed it a lot. It was great. Batman Long Halloween, parts 1 and 2. I like this a lot. Part of that is me just not really liking the Long Halloween as time goes on. Like, I think the comic has a lot of holes in it. It's one of those things where I get that it is important to the canon of Batman. I get that it's important to it's just not a good comic book. I'm sorry, guys. It really isn't. Like, if you go back and reread Long Halloween, that is a comic book where I totally see why I liked it when I was 13. You know? Actually, I read it before I was 13. I read that book when I was, like, 9 or something. No. I read Dark Victory when I was 9 because Robin was in it, and I loved Robin as a kid. Which I was very confused reading that comic because I was like, "What? Well, this. I guess something happened with that Carmine Falcone, who's the guy from Batman Year One. I guess something happened to him. And I didn't read Long Halloween until like years later. But I enjoyed it when I was like in like middle school and high school. But just I went back and reread it a couple years ago, and every subsequent reading of this comic has just been not great. But the animated movie, I feel, fixes a lot of problems that I have with the comic. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I also really like Jensen Ackles as Batman. He's a really good Batman voice. So much so to the point where like I'm reading other Batman comics now, and I just kind of hear Jensen Ackles as Batman. Like, do I have it up here? Yeah, I do actually. I was reading through Batgirl Year One, and I don't know if it was like the art or something, but like I get like right here, where you have that bit where Batman is scolding Batgirl for using the wrong kind of rope because it would have like ripped her fingers off and then like pulled her arms out of their sockets and she would have died like a horrible death. And I just hear Jensen Ackles during this whole encounter. So yeah, no, Jensen Ackles has like kind of become, for me, like the de facto voice for like younger Batman, you know. But yeah, I really like the Long Halloween animated movies. Injustice, terrible, but the story in the game is also terrible. It just gets a pass because it's a video game. It's fighting. You don't need logic with fighting games. Just give me fun bullshit and an excuse to punch people, and I'm fine with that. But when it comes to like a movie, Catwoman Hunted, it's fun. I've completely forgotten almost everything about that movie, but like I remember enjoying it when I was watching it with my girlfriend. It's just one of those movies where just gone. Green Lantern, Beware My Power, awful, terrible. Why you would introduce the Justice League off screen after like doing a Superman origin movie and a Batman, like, not origin but like early years Batman story, and then like introducing the Justice Society and making a big deal about the Justice League has to be formed to save the universe. You formed the Justice League off screen? What the what? And then they introduced the Green Lantern Corps, but they're all dead. And you kind of just you wind up giving Jon Stewart the Kyle Rayner origin. Like, I just don't get any of the decisions that were made in this movie at all. Like, what were y'all thinking? Yeah, this movie's awful. But then you have a movie that's not awful, which is Battle of the Super Sons. I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed this immensely. It's fantastic. It just makes me really sad that it's probably the last time we're gonna get a proper Super Sons anything. And then finally there is Legion of Superheroes, which I enjoyed, like a lot. And it's just one of those weird things where, like, I'm not a big Legion of Superheroes guy. I actively roll my eyes whenever the Legion of Superheroes are showing up in something. But, yeah, no, this was really cool. I enjoyed it. I like their Kara a lot. Like, way more than... way more than the, Kara from, wait, is it not listed on here? Superman Unbound? Oh, no, I already brought it up. But yeah, just I do not like the Kara in this movie at all. Or in this movie up here. Nope, I don't like that Kara at all. I like this Kara a lot, though. She's really cool. But yeah, let's see. How many movies out of the 46 that I named that I enjoyed? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 out of 46. That's less than half. I like less than half of the DC animated movies. Oh wow, that's a track record. That is a track record. Well, oof. I mean, like, yeah, no. Make the DCE, not EU, but make the DCU like the animated films. You mean a bunch of hit or miss movies like you already had with the DCEU? No, thank you. It's just no, thank you. Not good. I don't think it's not good. But let's see. Tevi says technically the late Dwayne McDuffie wrote Justice League Doom. He did, and I liked Dwayne McDuffie. I just sometimes felt like he has a weird shorthand for writing some of the DC characters that I just don't agree with. Supreme Omega says, on Gunn's DCU plans, I'm happy he's mostly adapting pre-New 52 stuff. My criticism with the recent DC films and TV is that they're mostly adapting post-New 52 material. DC has a rich history with Bronze and post-Crisis stuff. I agree. That was a big thing that stuck out to me about the Suicide Squad, and it's one of the big reasons why I really enjoyed that movie. That does not feel like a post-New 52 Suicide Squad adaptation. That was just straight up John Ostrander, Carl Kessel Suicide Squad. I really hope we get more of that energy with some of the later DCU films. I know Creature Commandos is like a weird, obscure, like Bronze Age thing, so that's really cool. Right? I'm not gonna say no. I didn't know that until recently, because I thought they were adapting Seven Soldiers, but nope. Apparently, Creature Commandos is a book that came out in like the 80s. So that's pretty cool. Michael Manning. Oh, what's up, Michael? How you doing? Michael says, can you think of any comics where graffiti was prominent or was about graffiti writers? Well, I can't think of the latter, but I can think of I had it and I just lost it. It's funny you like asked me this, and like it's gonna come to me like as soon as I go to bed tonight, and I'm gonna be like, God damn it, I should have said it then. Comics about graffiti artists. Let's see. I'm gonna cheat and use the internet and see what jumps out at me. I can say that I know that the Supergirl book, not Supergirl, the Batgirl book from the early 2000s. Oh, let me see. What's that? Do I have it up here? It's like Silent Night. It's the Cassandra Cain comic run. Let me see. That artist is a graffiti artist. I know that for a fact. What's his name? Not Scott Peterson. Damian Scott. Yeah, Damian Scott, I think, is a graffiti artist. Or at the very least, he has like a very like kind of graffiti style. But that's like the only thing that like really sticks out in my mind right now, though. Wait, no. Ed Piscor does graffiti art, right? You know, cartoonist kayfabe dude. Isn't he a graffiti artist? Yeah, he did X-Men Grand Design, and actually, I think he did most of the Grand Design books. Um, or at the very least, I can say he was influenced by graffiti artists. Um, because that's the thing, like, you're not really a graffiti artist unless you, like, run out and tag something. And most graffiti artists tend to not announce they're graffiti artists. uh, because graffiti is illegal. But I do remember hearing that Damian Scott was inspired by, like, graffiti artists. And I know for a fact that Ed Piscor is definitely inspired by graffiti art. But if they ever, like, announce that to the world, then that's probably not smart, because it's, you get, like, a fine for that. Tevia says, question. Speaking of DC Comics, I'm just wondering, how do you feel about Red Death appearing on the Flash show? Oh, I don't care. I don't watch that show. I haven't watched that show since season 2. So, if people like it, people like it. But nope, no interest. Omega says, I never get why Batman's supposed to be the strategist of the team and the guy with the plan, when he has problem dealing with people in or mentally challenged people in bright costumes. Yeah, that's always a thing with me. You know, Tevi says, question, do you believe Dan DiDio ruined everything with DC Comics and not Jeff Johns? I think it's a balancing act of both, but I also think it's everything that's wrong with DC Comics right now is the result of compounding variables over the course of, like, several decades. Yeah, I don't put all of that on Dan DiDio or Jeff Johns. It's not 100% either of their faults. Because they themselves, in their own very backwards way, I feel, were trying to fix the DC universe. Which, hey man, to their credit, at least they tried, because it was a mess. It was a fun mess, but it was still a mess. There was this question: why does Marvel hate Peter Parker? Well, I don't think they hate Peter Parker. I just don't think they know what to do with him. Supreme says, after all the criticisms with the Dio, I feel like fans were way too harsh on Quesada. Outside of Spider-Man, Quesada didn't really do many damaging things that played a part in played a part in saving Marvel from their collapse in the 90s. Yeah, that's the thing. People give Joe Quesada so much shit. But really, I think most of that ire should go to some of the leadership at DC. The past leadership at DC. Joe Quesada, like, plunged his hands into like a backed up septic tank and pulled Marvel out of dire oblivion. Like, Jesus Christ. I get that One More Day is terrible, but, like, does that invalidate all the good he did for helping to, like, literally save Marvel Comics and Marvel Entertainment? Like, no, I don't think so. I think people are way too harsh on Joe Quesada. Myself included in the past. You know, I definitely think that I was a little too harsh on Joe Quesada. Not a little. I was way too harsh on Joe Quesada. Especially considering, like, everything he did for that company. Omega says, when Superman will meet Apollo, they should do that Zoolander meme when Dude, yes, though. Oh my god, that'd be so funny. Oh man, do you know what that reminds me of too? This is a bit I legitimately loved from the New 52 Superman Wonder Woman comic. I thought that comic was really fun, but there's a bit where Superman goes to Mount Olympus, and Wonder Woman's like, "This mortal needs our help," and blah blah blah, and naturally the gods are just being assholes to Superman because they're the Greek gods and their whole thing is being assholes. But there's a moment where Apollo was talking to Diana, and he's just berating the hell out of her and being extremely rude, and Superman just says like, "Hey, that's my look. I know you like your siblings and all, but that's my girl. Don't talk to her like that. Be more respectful." And Apollo just starts like wailing on Superman, and Superman is like on the ropes, and he gets like he's on his ass, and then Apollo's like, "I'm going to dispose of you." And he shoots a beam of sunlight at Superman, and then Clark just rises up, and he's just like melting golden radiance, and Apollo's like, "Wait, I shot you with the power of the sun. How are you still standing?" And Superman's just smiling and says, "Oh, you don't know me at all, buddy." And he just launches Apollo into space. Dude, that was so cool. I would love to see a moment like that on film at some point in time. That'd be really fun to see. But yeah, no, that was great. Casada also destroyed the X-Men. With yeah. There's some of that. And there's like a weird grudge between Joe Quesada and Grant Morrison over that. I don't know. Neither one of them talk about it too much, but I do know that there was like an FU contest at one of the conventions, and they were the sole participants of that, and they walked away not talking to each other or about each other much, really, after that. Supreme Omega says, on the Elite, Joe Kelly was parodying the Millar run of the Authority, not the Ellis run. And in my view, Millar's Authority is not his strongest work, but it feels like a rough draft for the Ultimates. So you know what's weird about that? And not weird about that, just like my perspective on that. I have tried to read Warren Ellis's Authority to no avail. I love Warren Ellis as a writer, but a big problem that he has for me is that he is to comics what Stephen King is to novelizations or novels. Just a lot of good ideas, just cannot write a compelling ending for the life of him. And dude, every time I like try to read Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch's Authority, I'm like, this is cool, but like I'm bored and I'd rather just read the Ultimates again. That's really just how I feel about that. Whereas Mark Millar's Authority, which everyone hates, I had fun reading. Also helps that Frank Quitely did the art, and I love Frank Quitely. But like, just everyone hates Mark Millar's Authority so much, and I had a lot of fun reading it. I had way more fun reading it than I had trying to get through the Warren Ellis Authority. But I don't know, just that's I guess Monkey Brain just activated there and was like, nope, this is boring. You need to read crass, like poop deck humor comic. It's more fun. Um, dude, I just had way more fun reading the Mark Miller Authority than the Warren Ellis one. Oh, bless you. Oh, for when I sneeze, thank you. Toby says I love the Jeremy Adams Flash. Yeah, Flash War has been really good. This is just dude. This comic is everything I think DC Comics can be. Yeah, like I'm okay. The Jeremy Adams one on the Flash is that's something I'm gonna talk about on the channel at some point. I'm gonna review that on the channel. So yeah, Omega says sequel to the Elite story, Never-Ending Battle. Was it called? Was way better in my opinion. That one was pushing Superman for real and not him just preaching without anything really to back his words. Yes, I agree. That's like the weird thing about Ending Battle. I really dislike Action Comics 775. But I think Ending Battle is a good payoff for what Joe Kelly set up with Action Comics 775. Because it actually put Superman to the test in that book. And there's some bits in there where like Superman goes full on like Mad Lad Superman. Which I miss Mad Lad Superman. I wish he would come back. We're just in an age right now where I think we're trying to turn Superman into like Kingdom Come Superman, where he's like the patriarchal, like, oh, actually here's the real truth and justice of the American way and blah blah blah, and I'm going to stand here and I'm going to smile and say the right things and blah blah blah. Okay, that's cool and all, but I do like a Superman who will punch Neutron into orbit and just keep him there, so we can like have him as a backup plan. So when he gets like ambushed by Mongol and Bizarro and it was a couple other villains, but they were all like heavy hitters, and Superman guides them all to like a remote island somewhere, and Clark just says, there's a bit where I think he like just looks at the sky and says, "We've got 3 minutes," and they're like, well, 3 minutes for what? He says, "You remember your buddy Neutron? I just knocked him out of orbit. He's hurtling here at Mach 6." Like, and everyone's like, "You wouldn't. That's insane. Superman wouldn't nuke the Earth. Why would he do?" And then Bizarro looks up and says, "Oh my God." Bizarro, I'm good again, and just flies away. Like, I miss that Superman. I miss when Superman like had fun with his powers and was like kind of a, I don't want to say Sigma, but like he was just like kind of like legitimately unhinged, but like in the most fun way possible. I don't know. But early 2000s Superman's very sassy and like kind of unhinged at times, and I enjoy it a lot. Tevia says, question, speaking of characters post Flashpoint, do you believe Pandora could have been salvaged? I mean, anything's possible, but like, I don't care that she's gone. I don't feel like the DC universe is missing anything, really. Tevia says, question, I'm just wondering how you feel about John Kent Superboy going to the Injustice universe. Oh, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about anything that Tom Taylor's doing with the John Kent book. I just don't. I don't like Injustice, and I don't like John Kent, so that's like saying, hey, we have, I don't know, what are 2 flavors of ice cream that I don't like? That's hard. Actually, dating, like, it's weird. My girlfriend has, like, just a completely different like taste palette than mine, and my taste palette's like adjusting to hers, so like there's weird shit that I didn't like now that I didn't like that I really enjoy now, like pistachio ice cream. But let me think. Yeah, damn, I don't know. Yeah. Well, shit, I don't know. Okay, then something just disgusting like here's Squid Ink ice cream, and here's booty juice with chocolate booty chunks. Let's take those two things together. That's injustice, and that's John Kent Superman. Oof, nope, not interested. Have fun with that. Tevye says, oh yeah, to meet the teenage Super Bowl. Yeah, nope, not my thing. Yeah, we did have 4 Batman movies in the New 52 era, and they were all terrible. As far as I was concerned. Omega says, idea how to make Kong Kenan to be distinguished. Let him be the Tokusatsu Power Ranger style hero of the Justice League. Never mind. Power Ranger style hero of justice with Zords and everything. Because really, he's just another Superboy without even a gimmick. Well, I would disagree with you a little bit and say that the thing I liked about King Kong and that whole Justice League of China was it was a commentary on China's lack of respect for like corporate IP. I thought that was really good. And how like a lot of Chinese products actually don't work. So that's how you have like King Kong only being able to use like one of his powers at once. Like he has all the powers of Superman, but he can only use one of them at any given point in time. I thought that was really fun. I like the Superman of China, or I guess it was Super hyphen Man. I thought that was really fun. Supreme Omega says on Hush. To me, that comic is where Batman becomes an oversaturated cash cow. I mean, the comic teases the resurrection of Jason, something the more artistic O'Neill editor era avoided. Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Denny O'Neill just flat out say that bringing Jason Todd back was a sleazy stunt? Which... Was he wrong? Was he wrong? Outside of that Under the Red Hood movie, has anyone... Okay, outside of that Under the Red Hood movie and the second arc of Batman and Robin Reborn, has Jason Todd really, like, lived up to... the potential, the so-called potential of him being resurrected? I don't think so. Hush movie was bad. What? No, Tevye, you're crazy. Hush was good. Hush was good. Question, speaking of animation, I'm just wondering why Marvel hasn't done their own animated movies. Well, they did, but they didn't make a lot of them. But the ones they did make were, I thought, pretty decent. There was that, they did a Dr. Fate, well, not Dr. Fate, they did a Doctor Strange animated movie, which I thought was pretty fun. Still my favorite Doctor Strange movie, unfortunately. But the Doctor Strange movie was pretty good. I like that Iron Man movie that they made. I thought that was pretty good. Unfortunately, it got overshadowed by the live-action Iron Man movie that came out a year later. But, yeah, that movie's still really good, I think. And the animation for that was, like, gorgeous. I thought Planet Hulk was really good. Hulk versus was also great. Um, the Wolverine versus the Hulk was great. Wolverine versus Thor was fantastic. Um, yeah, man, like the Ultimate Avengers, they weren't great, but they were still fun. They're still fine. Um, yeah, Marvel's animated movie line was actually not bad. Like, I don't know why they stopped. Like, I really don't. I mean, of all the movies that I listed, I can't say I didn't enjoy any of them, which is more than I can say for DC's animated movies, as we just went over. Yeah, Marvel really should have stuck with doing the animated films. I thought they were getting pretty good at them. Um, we got a good Owlman. Yeah, that's the thing. For as much as I don't like that Crisis on Two Earths movie, I think Owlman was really good. Um, I also thought the action scenes were really good in that film. Uh, Omega says American Alien animated movie that makes the 3D and 2D animation with punk rock inspired art style and soundtrack. That would be so dope. But like, you also just have no. I don't think you have any idea like how much I want a punk rock style Superman movie. Like I am dying for a Superman versus. Now, when I say the elite, I don't mean like the crappy superhero team. I mean like the 1%. Like, I want a Superman versus the 1% elite style movie. I want that so badly. You know, do like an adaptation of the first 6 issues, or I guess 8 issues of Grant Morrison and Rags Morales' run on Action Comics. Get like a Sunset Overdrive style soundtrack for that. Yeah. Oh, that's the perfect Superman movie for me. We're never gonna get that, but I think it could be great. Um, Superman versus the Elite's fantastic, in my opinion. I mean, I get why people like it. It's just I think it's just such a disservice to try to prop up Superman by throwing a bunch of no-name strawman characters at him and saying, "Well, this is why Superman's cool." It's like, well, you didn't challenge him on anything. You're just saying that he's still relevant, but like he's never been not relevant. You are, I don't know. DC has a whole weird penis envy of themselves in a weird way, and like how Superman used to be viewed. But I think a large part of how Superman used to be viewed comes from DC feeling like their characters are old world, even though no one thought that until they started talking about how their characters are old world. Yeah, no. No. Weird. No. On Paul Dini's Detective Comics, this comes from Supreme Omega. I feel it gets unjustly ignored because it was released around the same time as Morrison's Batman run. But Dini is an underrated Batman comics writer. Well, I've read some of the Dini Detective Comics run. Here's the thing. I love Paul Dini as a person, and I respect him as a comic book writer and as an animator, or writer for animation. I don't think he's actually an animator, but like a writer for animation. I respect him as a writer, but just I don't like his Batman. I don't like Paul Dini's Batman. And it's just kind of weird where you have a writer whose take on Batman I fundamentally disagree with, writing a Batman run just as a writer who is also writing Batman, and I fundamentally agree with their take. It's yeah, that was the real thing, I think. But I mean, Dini's run has been recently put into Omnibus, so you know, it's available if people want to check it out. He murdered nobody. You're talking about Dark Knight Returns, or look, I mean, here's the thing. In the comic, it's up for debate. I feel like a lot of Batman's actions are up for debate because that book is being written and drawn from the perspective of Bruce Wayne, who is an unreliable narrator, I feel. Whereas the animated movie is making a lot of what I felt was up for interpretation, concrete and like certain, and I don't know. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that read on. I just don't like the fact that the movie was animated. I feel like Dark Knight Returns works as a book, and it's like everything else Frank Miller's written. It does not translate. It does not translate. Cyborg was in the Judas Contract, but like later, like he's hanging out with the Justice League. Actually, they give Cyborg's arc to Blue Beetle, which just makes no fucking. That whole movie is a counterintuitive mess. Jeremy Adams wrote Soul of the Dragon. Oh, nice. Well, that explains why I liked it, because Jeremy Adams is an amazing writer. Omega says, Amanda Tomorrow movie had some really good ideas, but everything was super undercooked. I agree. It felt more focused on themes rather than character actions, and Clark being too passive and weak. 100%. It's... A lot of my problem with Man of Tomorrow is that it is too much of a reaction to Man of Steel. Like, Man of Tomorrow is the movie that was made as a reaction to Man of Steel, and because of that, they just run in the complete opposite direction. Like, they just do like a straight up 180 and go this way, when, I mean, I like Man of Steel more than most people. That's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. But I get why some Superman fans don't agree. I get why some people don't like it. But there's a middle ground, right? Like, you don't... Like, if Man of Steel is an extreme, you don't have to run to the polar opposite extreme. You just go here. And I feel like Man of Tomorrow went all the way over here. Tevia says, Batman and Superman, Battle of the Super Sons is my favorite movie of 2022. Oh, that's nice, yeah. Yeah, it was a really fun movie. Long Halloween did have a post-credit scene. It did, but, like, that's not... Just having Green Arrow and The Flash show up at Wayne Manor is not, you know, that's not a Justice League movie. It's like, no, I want to see the formation of the Justice League. I want to see them, like, start the team. It was just so weird that there was such an emphasis on building the Justice League, and then they just did everything off screen. And then you jump into that Green Arrow and Green Lantern movie, and it's just, Justice League is there already. Yeah, here we are. We've always been here. It's fucking weird. Is what that was. Omega says Injustice franchise is cancer. It should be forgotten. It's such a disgrace for Superman's character and many other heroes on his side. Yeah. Oh, dude, like everything it's so funny. Everything I don't like about Civil War and the legacy of Civil War just, it's pales in comparison to everything that Injustice has done to the DC universe and those characters. It's like, oh my god. Oh my god. In a lot of ways, Injustice is what I thought Civil War was when I was like 11 or 10. When did Civil War come out? Is that 2006, 2007? I know it got like heavily delayed, so it's like a 6-issue miniseries, or a 6-issue event, much rather, that took 2 years to come out. But, dude, yeah, no, just everything I feel about Civil War is what Injustice actually is. Will we get a sequel to Battle of the Super Sons? I hope so. I really hope so. Because I really enjoyed that movie. I want to see more of that dynamic on film. At the very least, if you can't get it in comics. I agree with Omega on this one. Tom Taylor should just stay away from the Superman family. Supreme says, thoughts on the early 2000s, or I guess early 2010s Marvel Now relaunch that was made to compete with the New 52. On the good part, it got us Kamala. On the other hand, this is when Marvel starts to feel sanitized. I agree. I feel like Marvel Now, for me, the best part of Marvel Now is Jonathan Hickman's Avengers. The worst part of Marvel Now is that's really when, like, the Disney claws start sinking in. Even if, like, the higher ups at Disney aren't actually doing anything in Marvel, they don't give a fuck about Marvel, but, like that, you feel it, right? Like, the Marvel Universe used to have this bite to it, you know? And it's just 2010 onward, that bite is gone. Marvel feels completely toothless now after Marvel Now. So safe, so sanitized. It's just not. It's not Marvel anymore. You know, that's how I feel about that. Technically, that was Apollo, the Greek god. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking about Apollo from The Authority? Oh, well, Apollo actually does meet Superman in the Superman in the Authority book, and he's like, "I'm your biggest fan." But yeah, no, yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood what you're saying. I'm sorry. Oh, what's good, 1610 man? And 616 man. Yo, y'all are both here. Sweet, what's good? Um, Omega says, idea for The Last of Us for Superman? What? Okay. Uh, Fist of the North Star meets Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild with Belly Batson pre Shazam as his kid sidekick. Oh man, that'd be dope. Yo, okay. Okay. Omega, I'm gonna forget that I saw that. I want you to hold on to that and keep that in your back pocket. You need to take that to DC Comics. Seriously, dude, take that to DC Comics. That's a great idea. Um, Supreme says, part of me wishes that Disney never bought Marvel. Yes, Disney got the MCU, but I feel like the comics themselves started to feel more sanitized. For example, Marvel Unlimited app doesn't have the Max comics? What? What? Are you serious? Like, Punisher Max isn't on there? I mean, I can understand Luke Cage Max not being on there, but, like, no Punisher Max? Wolverine Max? None of it? That sucks, man. That's the thing, dude. Like, if I can go back in time and, you know, tell my younger self, hey, so, like, Marvel's actually not going to go out of business because, you know, Disney bought them. Back then, I was like, oh, this is cool. This means we're probably going to get, like, you know, more movies and stuff. Um... Mm, I was like very I was very optimistic about that whole deal when I was a little kid. Now I'm just looking back, going like, you know, the between the MCU just kind of turning these Marvel characters that I grew up loving into like a complete joke for the mass audiences, and the comics being just embarrassingly neutered. I'd rather have no Marvel Universe than whatever the fuck this is. Maybe that's dramatic, but like, that's kind of how I feel. That's kind of how I feel. Granted, we're still getting like cool stuff from time to time. It's not like we're not getting really fun, interesting Marvel comics. I point to this. You know, Doctor Strange: Fall Sunrise. This is a really great comic. But like, you know, the Marvel Universe overall just feels like it's not what it was. It's not what it was. Yeah. Oh, good night, Tevya. Omega says, the problem with many current writers and Superman fans, they want to box Superman into this never-ending sappy hope-named box. Like many of them say that Superman is not supposed to be cool. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. Granted, a lot of the Superman fans that I've interacted with, well, primarily like on like, you know, Reddit and Twitter and whatnot, don't actually read Superman comics. Like, Superman begins and ends with like movies and TV shows. So I don't give a fuck what their opinion on Superman is or what they think Superman should be. But yeah, no. 616 Man says Christopher Nolan's Avengers, political crime drama. I'd be down for that though. That'd be dope. Christopher Nolan Superman, journalist versus corporate corruption, a crime drama. Again, I still think that would be dope. In fact, that is the Superman movie that I want to see, which is basically just here's Batman versus Superman, but without the Batman parts in it. I'm cool with that. Uh, Although I feel like if Christopher Nolan actually made a Superman movie, the thing about Superman to the Brits is that Superman is that like ever optimistic, like beacon of hope. I don't think he would make a crime drama with Superman. If Nolan got his hands on Superman and made a Superman movie, I don't think it would be what you're describing. It would be. I think it would be like a pretty standard, like safe Superman movie. I think it would. I think it would be like a not. I don't. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I feel like it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be like anything with like an edge to it at all. Christopher Nolan's Captain America, a soldier versus a corrupt platoon of World War II soldiers. I think you mean Garth Ennis' Captain America. Because that's what Garth Ennis would do if he got his hands on Captain America. Omega says, the stupidest thing is that Superman... Or the stupidest thing to think is that Superman is too old-fashioned when really he's the champion... When really his champion of the oppressed roots are relevant as ever, but no one using it no one using it is all preferring the 50s Superman. Well, that's the thing, man. Superman as a character, I feel, is at odds with himself. Because Superman rose to prominence and I think hit his peak popularity in the 60s and 70s. Back when, we were in that big, like, economic boom. Really 50s, 60s, and 70s. But, like, the Silver Age of comics came about in that, like, big economic boom where America was on top of the world and, truth, justice, and the American way wasn't, like, a silly thing to say. And Superman kind of, like, in order to stay relevant, ironically, had to shift gears from being this hard-edged pulp hero to being this fuddy-duddy who, the aliens threw pie on my face and the pie actually had shrinking technology and now I'm stuck in another dimension where I have to... I'm stuck marrying Lois Lane over and over and over again as I keep getting older. Time dilates around me. Like, that whole era where Superman stories were basically just Family Guy episodes, that's where Superman had his, like, peak popularity. But then John Byrne and, Louis Simonson and Marv Wolfman tried to take Superman back to his more golden age roots, but, like, modernizing him, making him, like, an anti-corporate type character. And I don't think it stuck with people nearly as well as like the 50s stuff. It's weird. Superman's just a weird character. And he's just, like, super at odds with himself. That was good, Wu-Tang. Omega says, when New 52 movies are better than the Tomorrowverse, at least the New 52 set up the Justice League and Justice League War. Yeah, that's... Now, overall, I think the Tomorrowverse has been better than the New 52 movies, and that's Like, no, Green Lantern Beware My Power is awful, but like that's one out of the 5 movies that have come out in this continuity so far. And like the other 4 have been like really good. So I think the Tomorrowverse is still better. But yeah, whew, just what a ooh, yeah, awkward moment. Supreme Omega says, Miss Marvel, even though I do like Bruno, I do still have creative bloodlust for his potential death. Jesus Christ, tell us how you really feel. If handled well, it could rival the emotional drama of Gwen and Jason's deaths. It could, but I feel like the way in which Miss Marvel is written and cause I finally got caught up on the Miss Marvel series. That character just is flat. I feel bad saying that, but like I loved Miss Marvel growing up, and I thought that she was really cool in that Marvel Now era that we were talking about earlier, but like I feel like as the stories progress, it's she just doesn't have any drama. Like that's like the core thing with Marvel Comics characters. Like you read it for the drama. She has no drama. I mean, she does have drama, but like it's all like this middle school, like banal, who cares kind of stuff. And that's I don't know, it's kind of unfortunate, I feel. Like I just kind of like lost a lot of interest in Miss Marvel when I started like reading some of her like newer stuff. I was like, alright, oof, don't care. The first Civil War was 2007. Okay, cool. Thank you. 616 Man says the Tomorrowverse, rushed universe vibes, just like Young Justice, no time for setup. Well, that's like the so like okay, I appreciate the idea behind the Young Justice universe where they're just jumping you into the action. Like, okay, you know Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Arrow, all these characters. You know who these characters are. Here's the story. But the Tomorrowverse didn't do that. The Tomorrowverse, I feel like they were like they're trying to build a universe, and then they just got bored of it, and they were like, fuck it, you know the Justice League, right? Just boom, here you go. I was like, if you want to do that, that's cool, but like you have to start there, right? Like I don't know. And then we got Civil War 2, which was somehow even worse. Oh man, that was a travesty, that book. 2010s equals sanitized DC and sanitized Marvel moving forward. Yeah. Well, I feel like kind of the opposite. I feel like the 2000s for DC was them trying way too hard to like say, you know that that Teen Titans Go song where it's like, it is time to get really serious, and like they're all like gritting their teeth and like they're flexing their glutes, and they all have these like hyper serious expressions. I feel like that's what DC from the 2010s onward was, and still kind of is a little bit. Like, just what if we made everything Identity Crisis? And I like Identity Crisis, but I don't want everything to be Identity Crisis. That's, that's just how I feel about that. But I do agree that Marvel just got hyper sanitized from the 2010s moving forward. Christopher Nolan's Hawkman, a grounded Indiana Jones golden global adventure style crime drama. You know what? You're suggesting all of these in jest, but like I actually would want to see that. Like, you're joking, but that sounds really cool. It does sound really cool. Oh, good night, Tevia. Omega says, idea how to make Injustice better. It's Superman versus every supervillain in the universe who's protected by every superhero from Superman. So it's Superman versus everyone, but he's not killing his friends. Oh, I like that. That sounds like a really cool, like Superman fugitive type story. Kind of like Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, but just Superman, not Batman. That's the kind of sliding door where people get no-look assassinated by a dude with at least 2 swords on his hip. Yeah. Everyone is arguing about what superhero movies should be like, but all I want is a Pokemon game using Unreal Engine 5. Yo, that would be fire. That'd be so fire. Can you imagine? I went down a rabbit hole recently of mobile games that were reimagined using the Unreal Engine 5, and I saw like Subway Surfers. Oh man, but it was like cool though. It was like actually really cool. Can you imagine Pokemon in the Unreal Engine 5? That'd be so dope. That'd be so dope. Can you imagine Dragon Ball in the Unreal Engine 5? The world's not ready. The world's not ready. That's why we don't have it, because the world just not ready for it. Another problem with the New 52 from Supreme Omega says the slow death of Vertigo, especially after Karen Berger left in 2013. Vertigo dying is the last aspect of classic DC going away. Oh yeah. No one talks about that. I mean, they relaunched Vertigo a couple years later, but like it's not. It ain't what it was. It ain't what it was. Bendis' Venom. Eddie Brock in sci-fi noir crime drama. I don't think Ultimate Spider... Oh, actually, no. Ultimate Spider-Man was a sci-fi noir crime drama in many places. Oh man, have you like read the Ultimate Spider-Man Venom arc lately? It's so good. It's like dude, every time I go back and read Ultimate Spider-Man, I'm reminded why Bendis popped off in the first place. Like, dude, he used to be like on fire. Like, my man's was so hot he could like do anything and get away with it. Until they ultimately started doing anything and getting away with it, and people just let him get away with everything he was doing. That's how we got the not Heroes Reborn, um, the heroic age. Ooh, ooh. Wu-Tang says, I'm at a point in my life where I don't like Superman because he exists as a benchmark for new characters to needing clever ways to be Superman, uh, or to beat Superman. Okay, yeah, that's the thing. I feel like Superman is just kind of, he feels very hollow now. Largely, it sucks, dude. Um, and I really say that in, like, in pop culture. I agree with you in terms of, like, pop culture. I think comics are still really good. I think Superman still has a lot of really good comics, but, like, as far as pop culture is concerned, Superman's just like a nothing burger. Like, there's just nothing to him anymore. Um, Supreme Omega says, while Batman's golden age is important, I feel like the Bronze Age is where his characterization truly starts to deepen and form. Oh yeah, 100%. Um, a lot of what we consider to be um, true to form for the character, I think starts in that, like, early to mid 1970s Jim Aparo era, where you have, like, characters like Ra's al Ghul, and, you know, the Brave and the Bold starts up. I think that's where Batman starts to find himself as a character, really. 616 Man says, Jeff Johns is Cyborg, an inspirational sports story for disabled superhero. Yeah. Omega says, how to revitalize Intrigang for Superman? Make a Bruno Mannheim origin story in the style of Scarface, with arms dealings with aliens and ancient gods, and make Intrigang more diverse. Well, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Like, you know, like, really lean into the criminal element of Metropolis. I think a lot of creators are just afraid to do that because Metropolis is supposed to be the fun city with the shining buildings, and there's no dirt on the ground in Metropolis. It's all fun and games. Dude, get dirty with it. Like make Bruno Mannheim the Tony Montana of Metropolis. I'd be down for it. Bendis is Luke Cage, Pulp Fiction with street level superheroes. I really wish we got a Bendis Luke Cage book. I think he would have been perfect for it. Wu-Tang, but I feel like they're cooking bangers right now. The current creatives at in secret at Marvel: Cates, Ewing, Hickman, V, Larraz, Stegman, and more. Yeah, that. I do agree. You know, there's a lot coming out of Marvel that I can't say I dislike. You know, I think overall it's the thing I said at the beginning of the stream when I was talking about the DC universe and how I went back to a lot of the early 2000s material, and it was different. You know, like, it felt just something about it was just different. It hit different. In the same way that, like, I go back and read a lot of, like, the early 2000s Marvel comics, it just hits different, you know? Not to say that there's not good stuff coming out right now, or you know, there isn't any good material coming out right now. But like, just there's something about an earlier time period where things felt more like classic Marvel and classic DC, where now they just kind of feel like echoes of themselves. But yeah, no, I'm not trying to like discredit all the really good comics that are coming out right now. I think everyone you listed is putting out something that I really enjoy. I really like the beginning of the Donny Cates run on Thor. Al Ewing and Ram V are doing an amazing job on Venom, of all books. Venom. Never thought I'd see the day where I'd list Venom as one of my favorite comics coming out right now. But yeah, I'm also I really like the past Iron Man run by Cafu and Christopher Cantwell. Miracle Man, the Silver Age by Mark Buckingham and Neil Gaiman is like fantastic. That's a fantastic continuation of the Miracle Man story. So like, yeah, dog. Like, I think a lot of stuff is great at Marvel right now. I'm just, you know, I just can't help but feel like we're still in the throes of like a hyper corporate Marvel, like a hyper sanitized Marvel. So I'm always like caught off guard when I'm met with something that does feel classic or something that feels completely different and experimental. 2000s comics, edgy, and I liked it. Yes. Supreme Omega says pre-New 52 Bat Family and Ava crossover. What would happen if pre-New 52 Tim, Steph, and Cass met Shinji, Asuka, and Rei? Would they get along? I feel like Stephanie would be just creeped out and disgusted by them. But mostly at like nerve, and Steph would just have a real. She would blow a conniption at Gendo. Cass would feel really sorry for Shinji. She would hate Asuka, or be like weirdly annoyed with Asuka and just not understand why she's like being Asuka. But she would feel very like off put by Rei. Like she'd feel very weird around Rei. Tim, I feel, would get along with Shinji very well and try to like get him to be more adventurous, I think. Christopher Nolan's Memento. Alright. Christopher Nolan's Wolverine. His Memento with Wolverine characters. Literally a main character with amnesia. I think you're making all these like in jest, but these sound dope. Like, I don't get it. Is the joke that these are supposed to sound cool and that I want them, but I can never have them? Is that the joke? They're just teasing me with things I want but can never have. Oh yeah, I 100% agree with you, Omega. Pop culture really should stop treating Superman like a symbol and more like a character. Yes, absolutely. Like it's cool to have like Superman represent like a larger than life, you know. I'm gonna say that again. I think it's important for Superman to represent something. Whatever that something is, you can insert something here. But no, I feel like Clark Kent as a character is just lost now. I feel like Clark as a character is just lost in the shuffle. Um, and it sucks. Um, Superman is 20 points on 30 plus shots from the floor in a playoff game loss. Yeah. Uh, Jeff Johns is Superman. OMG, Donner versus Cannon now. I'm surprised Smallville wasn't a sequel. Yeah, dude. It was so weird when we got Secret Origin, like 6 months before New 52 happened. Like, because it just confirmed everything that people were already saying about Jeff Johns' Superman at the time, where it's like, this is nothing but just like this is a Richard Donner wank fest. Like, you're not telling Superman stories at this point. You're just like, oh, Dick Donner, you're so great. You're Superman. So, oh yeah, Christopher Reeve is so cool, isn't he? Oh yeah, like that's all it is. Like, you're not actually progressing the character of Superman. You're just jacking off Richard Donner while all of us are just awkwardly watching. That's yeah, Secret Origin came out in 2010. It was so weird. Like, because Infinite Crisis comes out and it teases that Superman has a new origin. And they tease that Superman has a new origin for 4 years. And they show you what the origin is just before the universe gets rebooted. Dude, it's so... Oh my god. Just, what a mess, man. What a mess. They're all bangers. What Marvel's putting out right now? Yeah, there's a lot of really good Marvel comics coming out. I think they're great. Pre-New 52, Stephen Cass, Asuka be able to befriend Damian. Maybe. Actually, no. Stephanie does befriend Damian. Damian would hate Asuka though because they're like basically the same person. Idea for a young version of Lois Lane, a military school dropout tomboy with an attitude turned journalist with short hair, purple contacts, leather jacket, and the bike. Yeah, I can see that. So basically, Tomo-chan is a girl, but with Lois Lane. That's not bad. That really ain't bad. I like that. Wu-Tang says, reading between the lines, they have a handful of titles this year for the hardcore crowd. Marvel? Marvel or DC? I think overall right now, Marvel and DC are at that weird point where both of them are good, which happens like once every 20 or so years. Like, it happened in the 80s where, I think the 80s, especially like the late 80s and early 90s, that was a weird era where both Marvel and DC were both equally good, and then you get to the early 2000s and into the mid 2000s where both Marvel and DC are really good, and now we're here where both Marvel and DC are really good. So yeah, no, it happens every couple of years, but you know, it's just interesting to watch that pattern happen. And then it's like really kind of weird seeing just one drop the ball and just fumble hard in the face of what was a very successful period for them. While the other like jumps up and down and like pass themselves on the back, and then they like also end up stumbling and falling, and then the other one takes their place, and then it's weird. It's very weird. But Omega says, hot take: Clark Kent is the one who's fighting for truth and justice by being a good journalist, while Superman is about stopping physical threats. He's a rescue ranger, not an emissary. Yes, I agree. Kind of. It's a thing where I think Superman, I've always had this thing where I felt like Clark Kent and Superman work hand in hand, where Clark gets to the heart of a problem, and then he uses Superman as a means to fix said problem, which he himself cannot get involved with because he's just a fucking journalist. But Superman can do whatever the fuck he wants because he's Superman. It's that power fantasy thing of, I recognize there's the problem, but I can't fix it myself. I have to become something bigger and more grandiose to deal with it. Supreme says, the 80s is the only decade where Marvel and DC were both equally good. Hell, the 80s was even good for the indie comics, like Cerberus and Love and Rockets. I think the early 2000s was also really good too. Like, that's when you had Kurt Busiek on the Avengers, and J. Michael Straczynski on Spider-Man. That's when you had Grant Morrison on the X-Men. I think a lot of DC throughout the early 2000s is fantastic as well. Except for Batman. Batman in the 2000s is pretty terrible, but like Superman's pretty good. Justice League is great. Flash is great when Jeff Johns is writing the Flash with Howard Porter doing the art. No, not Howard Porter. Scott Collins. Birds of Prey is really good by Chuck Dixon. And then later Gail Simone. Like, I think DC and Marvel are both really good in the 2000s. Bendis' Watchmen. Another crime drama. Oh, God. I don't want to think about that. Oh, Jesus. Nope. Ignoring that. Nope. That's pain. Jeff Johns' Watchmen. A typical. Nope. All right. You know what? I'm going to call it quits now. Because 616 Man is physically hurting my soul. So. Also, I gotta go to bed. It's like we've been going for like 2.5 hours. Hey, thank y'all for showing up. Mucho love. Thanks for the new faces in the chat. Glad to see new people come by. But hey, thanks for showing up. Thanks for chatting with me. It's always great to talk to y'all about comic books. Really good conversations I'm seeing in the chat too between y'allselves. Wow, I'm tired. All right. I'm gonna roll in my bed here and go to sleep, but I gotta turn this off to do that. So hey, thanks for showing up. I'll see you next week. Hopefully I don't have to delay the stream again to Thursday. I'll just do that on Wednesday like normally, but we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Take care, guys. Grant Morrison's Watchmen. Why are we doing this again? You mean Pax Americana?